my name is Abigail and welcome back to Polyglot Progress. One of my most requested videos of all time has been to talk a little bit about how I self-studied languages while I was a student, and to just talk about any advice I may have for those of you out there who are looking to learn or maintain new languages while you're also really busy with school. And I honestly put off making this video for a long time because I felt like I didn't totally have it figured out either. But looking back now, I think I was definitely a little too critical of myself. Sure, I wasn't able to do absolutely everything that I wanted while I was in school, but I still managed to take 22 plus credits a semester, work, play derby my last 2 years, while still managing to improve and maintain my French and German, get my Spanish and Italian from absolutely nothing to a conversational level, spend a bit of time on and off with Bulgarian, and get a little bit of contact with a few other languages as well. Plus, I feel like in the time since I graduated, I have learned so much more about the way that I can balance things. So today I just want to outline things that I feel like either worked really well for me while I was in school or work really well for me now that I wish that I had done while I was in school. But first, I really just want to say that I didn't always study languages while I was in school, and you don't have to either. One of the biggest things I have learned about being a good language learner is how important it is to prioritize when you're managing your time so that you can reduce and prevent burnout. Sometimes it's better to take a step back and do a little bit less during the semester so that you have the energy and the mental bandwidth to do things over break and not be burnt out. All that said, I don't think you should put a pause on all of your language studies if you don't want to. So here are some things that can make it easier to keep up with languages during the school year. Starting with the tip that I definitely hear the most from other people, but am also gonna say because there's definitely a reason why it's such popular advice. You can get exposure to your target language through lots of relaxing things. Video games, reading books, watching TV, watching movies, listening to podcasts. I did this a little bit in college, but because both of my degrees and both of my minors required a lot of reading and a lot of watching things, I often in my spare time just didn't want to do more of that. But this really has been the saving grace for my language learning this year during a really busy and hectic and stressful year. One of the ways I've been getting exposure to Italian in particular recently has been through watching shows with LingoPie, who is also the sponsor of today's video. If you're not already familiar with LingoPie is a streaming service that uses TV and movies to help you learn a language. It works pretty much like any other streaming service, but what really sets it apart from honestly just having a lot of curated content in your target language, is the subtitles and audio settings and other sort of vocabulary learning features it has. As you watch, you can adjust the playback speed of the audio, use single or dual subtitles, use the mashup feature to mix up the language subtitles, look up words, and view the full transcription of what you're watching in the sidebar. All of this makes it really easy to follow along and start to pick up words in context, even if you're an absolute beginner. And the other thing that really sets LingoPie apart from just watching anything on any other streaming service and pausing to look up words is that LingoPie then helps you learn the words that you've looked up through quizzes, flashcards, games, and Say It, which helps you train your pronunciation. The site already offers tens of thousands of hours worth of content, and they upload new stuff every single week. So you also know that you are never going to run out of things to watch in your target language, and you also don't have to go searching for hours on the internet for the next thing to watch. I've been using LingoPie for my German, Spanish, and Italian for several months now, but this past month I have mainly been using it for Italian. All of the subtitle features and playback speed options really make it a very approachable experience, and it really helps to make me not feel overwhelmed by all of the Italian I've forgotten over the last 2 years. Instead, I just get to feel excited about all of the things that I do remember and all of the things that I'm learning and all of the shows that I can now watch in Italian, including Italian kids shows that remind me of shows from PBS Kids. If you're interested in trying out LingoPie, they do offer a 7-day free trial, and they also have given me a discount code to pass on to all of you. So if you use the link in the description, you can get 55% off of your annual plan. If you do sign up, or if you're already signed up for LingoPie, I would love to hear about what you've been watching, especially if it is in one of my target languages, so that way I can go and watch it. I've also been watching reality TV in French this year with my friend, which has really helped me to build up my informal vocabulary, which has definitely been lacking, and has also just been a great way to hang out with a friend and to relax. languages. Another thing I really like to do is to listen to audiobooks in my target languages while I trail skate or while I'm cleaning my apartment or playing a video game that doesn't really require any sort of reading or a ton of concentration. Now, I do want to recognize that sometimes doing things like this in your target language isn't that relaxing. Sometimes reading a book that you might have a ton of fun reading in your native language, but in one of your target languages that you're not super comfortable reading in yet, just feels really frustrating or mentally draining even if it is enjoyable. But my biggest piece of advice for that is just to know that you can pick something that's a little bit more comfortable and enjoyable for you. You don't have to go with the thing that's going to push your level the most. If you'd prefer to read a graded reader that's a level below your level, or to watch something that you find really easy to understand, or to just lean a little bit more heavily on subtitles, that's all totally okay. You'll still get exposure to your target language, which will mean that you're still maintaining it, you're keeping up your motivation for it, and you're still able to learn new things. Going off of that, another piece of advice I have is just to listen to what you feel like doing. This is definitely where I went wrong previously and what held me back from making this video while I was in college. I definitely felt obligated to study my target languages in efficient ways that would make me a better language learner and would help me learn faster and reach all of my language goals. And I felt like I had to have an absolute equal balance of all of my languages, both in terms of my skill sets, but also in terms of like how much time I was putting towards them. And as someone who was making YouTube videos in college, I also especially felt guilt whenever I wasn't practicing and prioritizing my speaking in my target languages, because that was the only way I could really directly share my progress on YouTube. Once I let that go and just started watching TV that seemed interesting to me and listening to audiobooks while playing video games and just generally not trying so hard and analyzing the things that I was doing, I ended up doing way more. And I actually don't think that analyzing what you're doing is a bad thing. I actually really recommend that people take a step back once in a while and just think about whether the methods that you're using are working well for you. But if you're already really stressed, I think doing that step back and thinking about if things are working well for you can just lead to more stress and can lead to you overanalyzing all of that and just kind of getting into this state of not knowing what to do next. Plus, I think it's really easy to forget that analyzing your methods and assessing whether they're right for you isn't just about how quickly you're learning and how quickly you're hitting milestones or reaching your goals. It's also about assessing whether you enjoy those methods and whether they make you want to study or whether they make you start to hate learning your target language. Taking the path of least resistance is going to prevent language learning from adding to the stress that you already have from school and just make you more driven to actually use any free time you have to want to do things and to learn things in your target language. And similarly to all of that, use your dead time. Definitely give yourself room to breathe. I also do not recommend trying to optimize every single minute of your day, but if you really want to fit language learning into your day and you feel like you just absolutely have no time for it, this is a great way to fit it into your schedule and also just make your dead time a bit more enjoyable. If you have a commute or a walk to class, you could definitely listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks, do audio flashcards, or talk to yourself. If you take public transport like a bus or a train, this is also a great time to study out of a textbook, do some flashcards, or read in your target language. Or you can also just use this as a time to listen to music in your target language, keep up your motivation for the language, and even try to pick out any vocabulary that you hear and you know in the song. You can also pair language learning with any sort of chores you have, like cleaning or making dinner. I personally am a huge fan of watching TV while I fold laundry, and I also tend to listen to a podcast or an audiobook while I clean. I just find these chores really boring and monotonous, so having something to watch or listen to really makes it a lot more enjoyable. Plus, they don't require a lot of my attention, so I can actually put a lot more focus towards my target language in that time. But the great thing is that since you do those things pretty frequently, you'll get pretty frequent exposure to target language and also just make doing those things significantly more enjoyable. You can also fit language learning into those kind of small, awkward periods of time between classes or while waiting for people, where if you're like me, you probably just go on TikTok. This is a great time for language methods that involve your phone, like using flashcards or an app or writing a journal entry in the notes section on your phone. just since they're quick to take out, quick to put away, and if you're like me, you're probably already reaching for your phone in those moments. However, my number one secret to learning languages in school that definitely was what helped me maintain and improve languages while I was in university is to make it a part of your schedule. And I don't necessarily mean going to school for your target language. That is definitely an option, but no matter what you're studying, you can also just try to fit classes in or surrounding your target languages into your schedule. Because I was doing 2 degrees and 2 minors, I had so many requirements I needed to hit, and this was definitely one of the biggest ways that I did that. When I was in college, I did not formally, officially, by the school standards, study Italian at all. In fact, my school offered very few actual Italian language classes, and most of those were directed at opera students. But I was studying film, and in order to do that, I needed to fulfill a certain number of film history and theory classes. And so one of the classes that I took to do that was an Italian cinema class, which meant that I had to watch a ton of Italian movies and learn about Italian history. While the class was entirely in English, and the expectation for it had been that students would just watch the films with English subtitles on, watching all of the films that I had to watch in class and for homework meant that I was exposed to a lot of Italian. And I was also able to just gain a better perspective of Italy and Italian history and cinema. My senior year of high school, I was also able to convince my school to let me do German as an independent study. My school did not offer German, we did not have any German teachers, but my French teacher was willing to be my sponsor or supervisor or whatever they called it at the time, and I was able to work on self-studying the language while still getting a credit for school. This tip literally feels like a life hack to me because you're literally making it so that you have to be exposed to your target language and making it so that the school literally gives you credit for being exposed to your target language. I will say I do think it was a little bit easier for me to find classes like that at my college because even though it was a very small school with a very, very small language program, it was a liberal arts school, so there were a lot of offerings regarding history and politics and cinema and literature and all of these things. But even if you can't find offerings like this at your school, you can still find a way to schedule languages into your life. You may not get credit for it, but you can still design a sort of class in your schedule by taking a tutoring session every week at the same time, meeting up with a friend to study every single week at the same time, or attending or starting a language coffee hour at your school. I did all of those things, and it just sort of ended up feeling like another class in my schedule with assigned homework that I needed to do for each session. I also think that blocking out my lessons to be kind of standard and just kind of working languages into my schedule that way has been one of the things that has helped me the most since graduating, especially since I no longer have the exact structure that school had previously. It's overall just helped me be really consistent and held me accountable with all of my studies. So those are 5 ways that I feel like it can be a little bit easier to work language learning into your schedule. If you want to check out LingoPie, there will be a link in the description for you to start a free trial or to get 55% off of your annual plan. We're nearing the end of the year and I have a lot of videos that I want to post before the year ends. So even though I'm really busy and said that I wasn't doing weekly uploads, you may be about to see a whole lot of me. I'll see you in the next one, and remember, practice makes progress.